Hey there, hope this finds all of you well. In this episode, I'm going to show you how I make tartan garter flashes. Some people like them, some people want them. Here's how we'll make them. Now, our materials are the top band left over from the kilt when we shorten the kilt cloth to length. It doesn't have to be that particular piece, but I like using the top band because we have a selvage edge, a sealed edge to use. Adjustable elastics, which I believe L&M Highland Supply still sells. I may have to look. I think this is my last one, so I got to start looking for a new source if they don't know. But in the absence of these, you can just use a long strip of cloth tape of any sort, really, and just sort of tension it and tie it off under the turn down. So our first step is we determine what element of the tartan we're going to use. Now, this is the predominant element of both the front apron and the pleats of this chap's kilt. So the finished width is around 2 inches wide. It doesn't have to be perfectly 2 inches wide, but it just works out, about 3 fingers width. So I measured 1 inch out from the center and then a further inch, so a total of 3 inches. And I cut away the useless bit, and then pardon me, I tease out the fringed edge, and I do that. You can see I've got a darning or a heavy needle here. This one's a sailmaker's needle, but I use the blunt end, and I just use time to, as you can see, pull the yarns out, and I do it about 1 inch, about a thumb's width. Now the next stage is to sew it to the correct width. Now, I'm using white thread in this case, so you can see the stitch that I'm using. I'm also not knotting this because after I'm done this demonstration, I'm going to pull this apart and sew it with black thread because waste not, want not. So I just fold over. I'm doing this all by eye. I just fold over. Oops, let me try that again. I do a back stitch. I'm going to leave the little end a little bit proud. And I just hold it down with my fingers, and I'm going to sew something, it's sort of like a pad stitch. It's a very narrow stitch on the outside and a very wide stitch on the inside. Now I'm just going to carry this down to the end very quickly. Almost there. I'm going to fold over the other side, do the same thing. Not catch the fringe like that because that can be a bugger. Okay, I'm going to avoid doing that in the finished one, but we're doing this in real time, so. Right, so with black thread or appropriately colored thread, aside from that stitch, it's going to be virtually invisible from the outside. On the inside, as you can see, it's a zigzag, not quite a herringbone, but it captures that raw edge. And now from that, I'm going to leave that, I'm going to cut that short, but I'm going to leave this part of the thread untouched. I then iron them, set them aside. Here it is, ironed. Then using that thread that I left there, I sew one to the other, and I sew down again about 1 inch or so, because by only sewing at a certain amount, when they're worn, they'll sort of come apart a bit at the bottom like that, which is rather a pleasing effect. And then the next stage, very simple, I sew it onto my garter, whether it's an adjustable elastic or a strip of cloth. So there you go, cheap and cheerful, quick instructions on how to make tartan garter flashes.